morally, I was led to nonviolence because I felt that it was the best moral way to deal with the problem. We were seeking to establish a just society. And it was my feeling then, and it is my feeling now, that violence is certainly much more socially destructive, and it creates many more social problems than it solves. So I was led to nonviolence for deep moral reasons. And I turned to it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
There is no freedom, the wise man said, let justice roll down when the poor cry out for shelter and bread. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary? Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Hatred will never drive out hate. Let love roll down, roll down. Remember, our hearts can make others great. Let love roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let your love roll down like a mighty stream. When brutality threatens our daughters and sons, let peace roll down, roll down. May our voices rise up louder than the guns. Let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let peace roll down like a mighty stream. Step by step, one by one, let justice roll down, roll down. They can kill the prophet, but the dream lives on. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Oh, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, believe in the dream. When the way gets rough, we'll make a new way. And let justice roll down like a mighty stream.
To it because I felt that it was the morally excellent way to deal with the problem of racial injustice in our country.
As we enter into this time of gratitude together, I'm gonna share some words that are not mine, but are, I'm sure, very familiar to all of you. And then I'm going to share some words that I wrote in 2018 that got published in the GJ Sentinel. And as we enter into this moment of gratitude and think about what it means to be Unitarian Universalists in the year 2021, in this very, very historic time. Let's just take a little bit of time to be grateful for what we have, for the beautiful building that we are not at right now, for this community that comes together, even if just virtually, until we can be together again. And if you would like to contribute financially, you can go to grandvalleyuu.org, and there is an online giving tab. And we also now are part of Amazon Smile. And if it's smile.amazon.com, and you can sign up for Unitarians in Grand Junction, Colorado, and that goes directly to us. So these words of gratitude, the first words come from Pastor Martin Niemöller sometime between 1946 and 1950. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And in 2018, I wrote, first, he attacked the Muslims, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Muslim. Then he attacked the immigrants, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't illegal. Then he attacked the football players, but I didn't say anything because why not just stand? Then they arrested the asylum seekers, but I didn't say anything because they shouldn't be here in the first place. Then they took the children, and I didn't say anything because that can't be happening here. It's all good. They never came for me. They just kept opening Starbucks so that I could be behind my cafe mocha. The music that we're going to enter into today is not a gentle, angry people, but it is called A Cleansing Rage by Jason Shelton.
Cleansing rain wipes away my fear. A cleansing rage uproots all hesitation.
Hey, Wendy, could you start it over, clicking the, making sure you click the share sound box? Because it was very quiet and then I muted you because you had feedback and it muted the whole thing.
I was wondering if I forgot to do that. So we'll try this again. Is it working this time?
A cleansing rage wipes away my fear. A cleansing rage uproots all hesitation. A cleansing rage burns deep in my soul. May this rage make us one, make us whole. A sacred rage calls out falsehood and greed. A sacred rage fuels the fires of justice. A sacred rage burns deep in my soul. May this rage make us one, make us whole. A
tearful rage lets its truth be known. A tearful rage believes what is spoken. A tearful rage burns deep in my soul. May these tears make us one, make us whole. A loving rage restores our hope. A loving rage strengthens bonds of resilience. A loving rage burns deep in my soul. May this love make us one, make us whole. May this love make us one, make us whole. May this love make us one, make us whole.
So Monday, I woke up feeling very, very anxious. On Thursday, for some reason, I woke up just with this feeling of feeling scared. Saturday, I woke up feeling sad. And today, I woke up feeling angry. This is Martin Luther King weekend, and I'm not advocating for us to go on a march tomorrow. This is Martin Luther King weekend, and Chelsea and I are Zooming from home today because we just aren't sure if it's safe to be in a UU church building this morning. We have our first woman vice president being inaugurated on Wednesday. Our first African-American woman holding one of the highest offices in the land. And nobody can be at the mall to witness this history in the making. Why? Because white supremacists and neo-Nazis and angry white men and women who think that the election was taken away from them, who think they own the whole country, are having a violent national temper tantrum. Does that create a simmering rage in me? Well, from somebody who doesn't do anger very well, or even know how to recognize it or express it within myself, yes, I'm angry. The song made me a little bit uncomfortable. I wondered if I should play it today, and I decided I would, because no matter how much we want something to be true, no matter how much we want this world to be a place of love and laughter and friendship and peace, right now this country is an exploding volcano. It's a volcano of repressed emotions, and those emotions are coming out for a significant portion of our population in the form of rage. And so we can ignore it, Or we can acknowledge the simmering emotion in America right now and then have a conversation about what to do with it. And I felt all of the emotions this week. And what is interesting for me was I was realizing as I was feeling them that they were moving through my body. And as they were moving through my body, the majority of them weren't mine. And I realized that I'm picking up on a collective energy. And so for me, I realized that it's my role to take that energy in, the fear and the sadness and the anger and the rage. If I can take it in and recognize it and then maybe transmute it out as something else. But here's the thing, it can't be transmuted if it's not taken in its raw form. And so I can't run away from the emotions. I can't repress the emotions. I can't block the emotions, or they come out sideways. So I have to feel them, take them in, and then transmute them into something else, compassion or love or peace or balance. But that happens inside of me. And I hate to say it because, like I said, I have very little experience with this, but one of the emotions in America right now is rage. Jason Shelton called his song a cleansing rage. I called my sermon a sacred rage. And so, what do we do with an America full of rage on Martin Luther King weekend when white supremacy is exploding like a pent-up volcano? We acknowledge it, we embrace it, and then we transmute it. Jason Shelton took it and put it into a song that made me uncomfortable. And the question is, why? Why am I uncomfortable with expressions of rage? What is rage? I think of rage as scary, as unenlightened, as dangerous. But sacred? How can rage be sacred? How can rage be cleansing? How can rage be loving? When I think of rage, I think of what I saw in the Capitol last week, people out of control and angry. And so this song to me brings some cognitive dissonance. Is there such a thing as sacred rage? And when, if ever, is rage okay? I think the problem is that we don't acknowledge our rage until it's spilling out of us, like it did this summer and last week. And yet the two things, what happened this summer and what happened this week, I want to be very clear. They are not the same thing at all. I see a lot of moral equivalency in an attempt to justify last week. Well, look at what happened this summer. And no, the two are not the same thing, but how do I articulate that? How do I dispel that false moral equivalency? Because that's what it is. It's a false moral equivalency. But the other part of that is a more universal human issue right now in our country. And the other part of it is the feeling, the experience of rage is the same. Whether you are a woman finding her voice for the first time after years of abuse, or a young Black man raging against the injustice of the racist systems surrounding you, or the white supremacist full of anger and hate, raging at the perceived injustices of people of lesser value having the gall to dare stand up to you and exercise their rights and power in a way that threatens your perceived place in society. These are not the same moral equivalencies, and yet the expression of rage and the inner feeling and the inner emotion of rage is simply an emotion that is expressed and experienced in human beings. So, what do we do with rage? I know that I grew up in a family that rarely expressed anger, let alone rage. So, when rage is directed at me, I am at a loss how to handle it because it is not part of my lived experience. But I also know that there are many people listening today who would share the exact opposite lived experience, to the extent that this rage that's being expressed in the country can, and for many people probably is, triggering severe PTSD. And therefore, the past few weeks have been extremely stressful and triggering to so many people to see such rage being expressed in our sacred Capitol building, attacking a foundational principle of what it means to be an American, and waking up to the fact that many of the people doing the attack are our neighbors, family members, some friends or acquaintances. And that's what makes me so sad. And this week I wondered if I was the right person to speak on Martin Luther King weekend. We usually have a guest speaker, and yet this weekend, I think that it's fitting that the pulpits have some white voices in them, because it's apparent that what's going on in this country right now is a white issue. Jason Katz has a TED Talk that I showed a few years ago, and it's called Violence Against Women. It's a men's issue. And at the beginning of this TED Talk, he says, quote, "I don't see these as women's issues that some good men help out with. In fact, I'm going to argue that these are men's issues. In the United States, when we hear the word race, a lot of people think that means African American, Latino, Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander, on and on. A lot of people hear the word sexual orientation, they think it means gay, lesbian, bisexual. And a lot of people, when they hear the word gender, they think it means women. In each case, the dominant group doesn't get paid attention to, as if white people don't have some sort of racial identity or belong to some racial category or construct, as if heterosexual people don't have a sexual orientation, as if men don't have a gender. This is one of the ways that dominant systems maintain and reproduce themselves, which is to say, the dominant group is rarely challenged to even think about its dominance. That's one of the key characteristics of power and privilege, the ability to go unexamined, lacking introspection, in fact, being rendered invisible in a large measure in the discourse about issues that are primarily about us. It's amazing how men have been erased from a subject that is essentially about men. And here we are today. It's in our face. Like I said, I thought about having a guest speaker today. We do that often on Martin Luther King weekend because, frankly, I'm going to come out as a middle-class white woman. So many times, it's not my voice that needs to be heard on Martin Luther King weekend. But I also realize now, today, we don't need a Black voice. Today, we need white people talking to white people, telling us to get our stuff together. I had a different word in there, but so I'm just going to name it. I'm angry. I'm angry that we have to be prepared for neo-flippin' Nazis to attack every state capital in our country today. How did we get to that? And I hate to tell you, it was people like us, like me, who said nothing for decades and generations. People like me who want the approval of my tennis friends more than standing up to say, but you're just wrong. People like me whose greatest gift is to see both sides, letting that gift become our greatest weakness when we fail to take a side. So let me be clear today, I'm taking a side, and it's not on the side of the Nazis. If anybody's a target this week in Grand Junction, it might be us. And that's why I've told Maya and Chelsea not to come to the church this week. Because this weekend, it is white people who have to come to the reckoning with our history. Why me? Because I live in a town where Nazis and the KKK are almost more welcome than Black people. Because I've spent my whole life living in a culture of white privilege. I don't have white guilt. I don't have white shame. I don't think guilt or shame are useful in any capacity. But what I do have is white awareness, awareness of my privilege. I don't need to feel guilty about it. I don't need to feel shame about it, but I do need to know that it exists. And really, in all honesty, this awareness is called growing up and having self-awareness and gaining the emotional maturity to realize that I am not the cause of everything good in my life. Some of it has come to me on the back of other people. And that doesn't make me bad. It doesn't even make me racist. It just means that I'm waking up to the realities that the world does not revolve around me and my white communities. And I think part of what we're seeing this week and this year and over the past 4 years and over the past 4 decades and over the past generations is an assumption that the world revolves around white people. And it's time to dispel that myth. The reason that Trump will not be president for 4 more years, the reason that Georgia elected their first Black US Senator and Jewish US Senator is not because of white people. It's because the rest of the country, who happens to not be white, stood up and said, yeah, we're not buying into that mess anymore. We realize that we have agency, we matter, our voices collectively matter too. We say the world doesn't get to revolve around only white people anymore, and we're ready to be at the table. And look what they brought to the table: a new president and a new Senate. Because let me be clear, if it was left up to white people, we would have President Trump right now and Mitch McConnell would still control the Senate. So this sense of white superiority needs to be expunged from our thinking. Last week, I talked about illusions, confusions, and delusions. And I'm here to say that we're not immune from our own illusions, confusions, and delusions. I came across a Facebook post last week that basically said, how do you discern in these times if you're on the right side of history? and it gave some very good and pragmatic advice. And I don't know who the author is, but this person wrote, quote, "Huge numbers of our population, good people on both sides, believe in a complete alternate reality, alternate facts, as it were. But just as intensely as I believe they are deluded, they think I am the one who is deluded. Maybe I am. So how can I be confident in my perception? It can be quite difficult, but I have found that in times of confusion, particularly when emotions are running high and creating tunnel vision, the presence of Nazis can be an extremely helpful indicator. If I am attending a local demonstration or event and I see Nazis, neo-Nazis, miscellaneous Nazis, or the latest whatever uber mythology Nazis, I figure out which side they are on. And if they are on my side of the demonstration, I'm on the wrong side. It is tough to argue moral equivalence when I am standing next to a Nazi. Look to my right. Is there a guy wearing a 6MWE t-shirt? 6 million wasn't enough. I'm on the wrong side. Look to my left. If that guy is wearing a Camp Auschwitz t-shirt, I'm on the wrong side. Speakers referring to things Hitler got right, wrong side. Team spirit face paint and a hat with horns. This is an unclear indicator that could mean anything, but safest to keep my distance from that guy even at a football game. But I can always, always, always rely on the presence of Nazis as a guiding light through a fog of disinformation. Some things are relative, but evil and good are absolute. I posted this on my Facebook page, and I didn't post it to be snarky. This is very real advice. Who are you standing next to? Take a look around and really ask yourself, who am I standing next to? I've been doing the work of discernment for years, looking within, trying to get moral clarity, and I'm pretty clear on where I stand. If I am on the side of the Nazis, then I'm on the wrong side and I have some soul searching to do. We need to be a prophetic voice. We do not have to be an angry voice, but we have to be strong. This is so much larger than any one of us or any little church. And so I close today with these words from Martin Luther King Jr., speaking to our very own Unitarian Universalist Assembly in 1966, as he was the guest speaker for the Ware Lecture. He said to Unitarian Universalists back then, "I must say to you this evening, my friends, there are some things in our nation and in our world to which I'm proud to be maladjusted. And I call upon you to be maladjusted and all people of goodwill to be maladjusted to these things until the good society is realized. I never intend to adjust myself to segregation and discrimination. I never intend to become adjusted to religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few and leave millions of people perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of prosperity." Martin Luther King Jr., Ware Lecture, General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association, 1966. And now, let us listen to the words, "Lift every voice."
Civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing as a poem, which was set to music by his brother John Roseman Johnson in 1899. The song is now known as the Black National Anthem in America. It is a protest, a hymn, and a prayer of profound significance for our people. We lift every voice and sing to express ourselves. We lift every voice to show that we have strength in numbers and we will not be silent. We lift every voice and sing to be lifted, liberated, and free.
Freedom, the power to determine action without restraint. Freedom, the absence of or release from ties, obligations, or restrictions. Freedom, the ease or facility of movement or action. Freedom, frankness or boldness in manner or speech. Freedom, a political right. Until we are all free, none of us is free. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty that are rejoicing as high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the roaring sea. Lift every voice.